Hello there. Welcome to part 3 of I forgot what I called the title really now. Hang on. Oh, whatever. It's just part 3 of what I've done about Panwell and Ike and that. Right. I put a little note here at the top. It says mention religion and how cabinet members shouldn't be religious and does he always side with Wu even if he doesn't agree with it? Oh right, yeah, I see. I didn't actually put this in. I've just read it now. It's he mentioned me. He mentioned my single mention in his Skeptic Talk at Lytham. He said that religion, you can't take a religious person out of the cabinet or out of the promise of number 10, but just because they're religious. But my point was, should you have someone in number 10 or the White House who's extraordinarily religious and says they talk to Jesus and God and has a finger on the nuclear button? That's what I mean. And I don't think you should, if you're a cabinet member or prime minister or chancellor of the exchequer or any leader of any Western country that has nuclear weapons. Anyway, and that he always sides. This is Mr. Jones. He always sides with the Wu, whether he agrees with it or not. I mean, he's not a flat earther, but he'll side with the Wu over the Skep. That's as far as I've always realised. I mean, it might be wrong, right? But I've never seen it happen the other way around. Anyway, that would be another topic of conversation. But that's what he mentioned in his talk at Lytham. So I'll carry on with what I've done for part 3. Right. It seems a nerve has been touched, a wound reopened, the taking of a poo only to find no toilet roll, a hangover and no ibuprofen in the house, deleting that important essay on deadline day about tardiness. I will say that it appears someone is rather annoyed and I am getting one hell of a ticking off. Mr. Jones, the man who has thousands of blogs and many hundreds of vlogs, a man who travels a 400-mile round trip to spend 90 minutes talking about skeptics, a denizen who goes to skeptic in the pub meetings in a disguise because he is worried he might get recognised and get kicked out, which I'm sure he wouldn't get recognised. I mean, he is hardly that well known on the Wu circuit, let alone in the opposition camp. He's actually annoyed with me for having the audacity to speak out against his ideas. Now, I am not doing so anonymously. He can quite see it is I, Beatsart, who is talking here. He may also notice that apart from criticising his notions, I have not thrown any personal insults in his direction about his head or torso. Sadly, I have to conclude, though, that he is a little snowflake and just can't man up enough to take on board that other people might be correct for a change. Just a bit in your wrong, there's nothing wrong in that, ironically. Although all of this does make for a sweet and beautiful irony that I doubt that our Oxford friend has the wherewithal to appreciate. Anyway, I want to talk here about fear. It's a horrible thing. It's something we feel often, maybe, and it is a natural reaction to the changing environment around us. But unless you like endless horror films and get off on blood and gore, and the last thing you want is a sect of society fearing down on you all the time. This is what the woo-woo community do. Of course, the mainstream news is full of awful things, but not everything mainstream is about death and destruction. They do nice things too. Woo doesn't do that. If you look at Mr. Jones's blogs, they are normally about downbeat subjects. They are depressing and disheartening and fill you with a sense of gloom. Yet the way he presents them in his hybrid voice does make them sound chirpier, but what is said is usually wrong and full of paranoia. There is always an ulterior motive to everything he covers. Sort of like the entire governance of the whole world is out to silence him because his great work is just so important. But it is still full of fear. Mr. Ike sells fear by the skipload. His doom-ridden website constantly finds the contrarian view in everything positive. If kids do well at school, it's because they are good at being repeaters. Doesn't the world need repeaters, though? Don't cars drive in a particular way? Imagine if every time you drove your car, you had to do it in a different manner and nerve and scratch every day. Imagine if doctors had to do their job randomly because the medicines they work with all the time and the illnesses do the same. Everything is random, so there is no way of predicting what will happen from one day to the next. Yet that doesn't happen. Doctors can do that heart transplant because they have learned over many years how to do it. You drive your car the same way every day. We have to learn how to repeat tasks, so I fail to see what the issue that Mr. Ike has. I remember watching a clip of him slagging off schools at one of his shows, and he said instead of teaching kids to be happy, no, algebra. That's what they do. No, algebra. Not happy, algebra. Now, there are two simple issues we mentioned here. I take it Mr. Ike hasn't been in a school for a while. They're a bit better ambience about them than when he was at school. And as for algebra, if humans had never worked out how to utilise algebra, it would be impossible for him to do his shows with his amazing PowerPoint displays. He claims we never use it every day. Yes, we do. Simply, if you have £10 and you want to save £7 on something else later on, what is the maximum you can spend in between? That is the basic essence of algebra. Oh, sorry, Mr. Jones, the answer is £3, and nothing can function without it. Although it is fear meant to provoke hate. Is that what the woos want other woos to feel? Hate. It is clear Mr. Jones hates things. Cultural Marxism is one which he chirps on about regularly towards the end of each blog. On St. Theo's Day this year, 2016, the patron saint of porters, he went to his former place of employment to hand out some Theo flyers to the probably bewildered, hard-pressed porters there. He then commented about a section of the hospital, now a women's hospital, was politically correctness, and he said it in a manner that could be described as derogatory. Cultural Marxism is his prime hate, and everything to the left of politics really. He claims he doesn't agree with equality, which I am sure I've heard him say, yet I think he doesn't know himself why, and twists it around about in his usual woo-defied language. If you want a clearer picture of what I mean, just Google a Pamlo voice and type equality into the search engine. You get a good insight into his psyche with what is returned to you. Feminism he doesn't like either, which I think he considers is a branch of cultural Marxism. He tries to come across as a likeable person, but he tries too hard and it appears forced, and the real him soon surfaces. And I am calling him shallow? Yes. I would suggest he is a cultural Philistine. He calls me the Dover Liberace, but I don't like Liberace. He seriously couldn't think or Google another 20th century pianist. How about the Dover Glenn Gould or the Dover Horowitz? I would just say that he's the Oxford Thatcher then. When it comes to politics, he appears to lean to the right, whether he asserts otherwise or not. I expect he wants people to think he is apolitical. He's not quite up to pulling that off. Anyway, to finish this report, this part, now I'll just ask a few questions. Now, a final request from Mr. Jones. Can you just answer these following questions and then we'll just leave it to be? Simple. Right. The passport claim. It was just you fibbing, right? You were just mucking about. You know you can't get into the USA or any other country without a passport, right? Apart from the Republic of Ireland, right? The orgone thing you chucked in the Thames, just a gimmick, just a show, didn't mean nothing, did it? It was just a gimmick. No, you knew that it wasn't going to make any difference, didn't you? Right? Why is a Pamwo expressed as a plural yet contains no porters? Straightforward enough. Can you verify that you didn't actually think Apollo was filmed in another solar system? And you can't really debunk thermodynamics, can you? That was just you flexing your metaphorical muscles, so to think. Oh, and last one, can you finally define to you, as you being a right-wing anarchist, what that is to you, please? Right, that's it. If you just answer them 6 questions, then we can just put all that to bed and we can say, that's enough of that, right? You don't need to mention. Well, for me personally, I mean, you just admit sometimes, Mr. Jones, that you're wrong. I admit when I'm wrong, of course I do. You know, just no harm admitting you're wrong. There's nothing wrong with modesty, is there? You know, I'm sorry to call you shallow, but just you're acting shallow. You know, perhaps you're not. You know, but if you ever want to debate, I'm up for it. You know, just let us know. You know, I'll be terrible. I mean, I'll be wrong. I can't speak in public. I've never spoken in public since I was at school, so I'll be terrible. You've had plenty more practice, so you'll probably destroy me anyway. But, you know, I've got nothing to lose anyway. I've got no reputation to start with, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, let us know and, you know, see how it goes. Cheers.